Dr. Sydney Soclof. Dr. Sydney22@gmail.com. 2022. Narration by Dr. Sydney Soclof,
Zoe Phonemes,
and Nathan Koltov. For a more complete discussion of YouTube navigation, please go to this video using the link here.
Chapter 1. Montreal. Montreal, Ville de Montréal.
This is a view of Montreal.
This is another view of Montreal. This is another view of Montreal.
Montreal, or Montreal, is the largest city in the Canadian province of Quebec and the second largest city in Canada.
Montreal was the largest city in Canada up until the 1970s, when it was surpassed in size by Toronto. This shows the two largest cities in the province of Quebec, Montreal and Quebec City. Montreal is in the south of the province of Quebec, approximately 275 kilometers, 168 miles, southwest of Quebec City, the provincial capital, and 167 kilometers, 104 miles, east of Ottawa, the federal capital.
Montreal is 502 kilometers, 312 miles, northeast of Toronto.
Montreal is 407 kilometers, 253 miles, northwest of Boston.
And 530 kilometers, 329 miles, directly north of New York City. Montreal is on the central and eastern portions of the island of Montreal, just above the confluence of the St. Lawrence and Ottawa rivers. Montreal is on an island between the St. Lawrence River on its south and the Rivière des Prairies on its north.
This shows the region around Montreal. The McGill suburb of Longueuil is on the opposite side of the St. Lawrence River.
The port of Montreal lies at one end of the St. Lawrence Seaway, the river gateway that stretches from the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. Montreal is named after the most prominent geographical feature on the island, a 233-meter, 764 feet, hill called Mount Royal. Chapter 2. Here is the population of the provinces of Canada, going east to west. Ontario is the most populous province, with a population of 14.8 million.
Quebec is the second province in population with 8.6 million people, although it is the largest province in area.
Toronto in Ontario is the largest city in Canada, with a metropolitan area population of 6.2 million. Montreal in Quebec is in second place, with a metropolitan area population of 4.3 million.
This is the coat of arms of Montreal.
The official language of Montreal is French, as defined by the city's charte. Montreal is the second largest primarily French-speaking city in the world, after Paris.
The population of the city of Montreal is 1.8 million, and in the metropolitan of Greater Montreal, the population is 4.3 million. Chapter 3. Languages in Montreal.
These are the mother tongue languages in the Montreal metropolitan area. French is the language most spoken at home by 66% of the population, with English a distant second at 13%. Montreal is a very cosmopolitan city with a wide variety of languages spoken.
Forbes magazine 2007 ranked Montreal as the 10th cleanest city in the world. In the Monocle magazine 2008, Montreal was ranked 16th in a list of the world's 25 most livable cities. Contributing factors included a strong arts community, a booming aerospace industry, and a vast network of free wireless internet. Chapter 4. The History of Montreal.
There is archaeological evidence of various nomadic native peoples occupying the island of Montreal for at least 2,000 years before the arrival of Europeans. The St. Lawrence Iroquoians established the village of Hochelaga at the foot of Mount Royal.
The French explorer Jacques-Cartier visited Hochelaga in 1535, claiming the St. Lawrence Valley for France.
This is a painting of Jacques-Cartier at the Iroquoian village of Hochelaga. In 1611, French explorer Samuel de Champlain established a fur trading post on the island of Montreal, on a site initially named La Place Royale,
along the St. Lawrence River.
70 years later, Samuel de Champlain reported that the St. Lawrence Iroquoians and their settlements had disappeared entirely from the St. Lawrence Valley, likely due to intertribal wars, European diseases and outmigration.
In 1639, Jérôme Leroy de la Dauversière obtained title to the island of Montreal in the name of the Société de Notre-Dame de Montréal to establish a Roman Catholic mission for evangelizing natives. Paul Chamedy de Maisonneuve was the governor of the colony.
This is a statue and painting of Paul Chamedy de Maisonneuve.
Montreal was initially called Ville-Marie, or City of Mary. Ville-Marie became a center for the fur trade and a base for further French exploration in North America. It remained a French colony until 1760 when it was surrendered to Great Britain. During the 1980s and early 1990s, Montreal experienced a slower economic growth rate than many other major Canadian cities. By the late 1990s, however, Montreal's economic climate had improved as new firms and institutions began filling the traditional business and financial niches. Montreal was merged with the 27 surrounding municipalities on the island of Montreal in 2002. The merger created a unified city of Montreal which covered the entire island of Montreal.
The merger proved unpopular, and several former municipalities, totaling 13% of the island's population, voted to leave the newly unified city in 2004. This demerger left 15 municipalities on the island, including Montreal.
Chapter 5. Lachine Rapids.
Because of the virtually impassable Lachine Rapids just above Montreal, St. Lawrence was once continuously navigable only as far as Montreal.
Lachine Rapids gets its name from the French word for China, Lachine. The early European explorers dreamed of finding a route from New France to the Western Sea and then to China, and hence auspiciously, the canal was called Lachine. This is a view of the Lachine Rapids.
Montreal lies just below the Lachine Rapids, which were the upstream limits of navigation by ocean-going vessels before the completion, in 1959, of the St. Lawrence Seaway.
Montreal rose to prominence as Canada's principal eastern seaport. Today large vessels must still stop at Montreal, while medium-sized ocean-going ships may continue to the Great Lakes.
Icebreakers keep the ports of Montreal and Quebec open year-round. But ice prevents navigation on the upper river from December to April.
The Lachine Canal, Canal de Lachine in French, bypasses the rapids and goes through the southwestern part of the island of Montreal.
The opening of the Lachine Canal in 1825 permitted ships to bypass the unnavigable Lachine Rapids.
Montreal was then incorporated as a city in 1832. The Lachine Canal runs 9 miles, 14.5 kilometers, from the old port of Montreal to Lake St. Louis, through the Montreal boroughs of Lachine and LaSalle.
Chapter 6. Victoria Bridge. The construction of the Victoria Bridge in 1859, across the St. Lawrence River, between Montreal and Longueuil, established Montreal as a major railway hub.
By 1860, Montreal was the largest city in Canada and the undisputed economic and cultural centre of Canada.
The Victoria Bridge was opened in 1859 and was the first to span the St. Lawrence River. It is an important historic bridge in Canada. It remains used to carry both road and rail traffic, with rails in the middle and roadways, part of Route 112, on both sides.
The Victoria Bridge is actively used by the Canadian National Railway on its Halifax to Montreal main line. It significantly contributes to Montreal's role as a continental hub in the North American rail system.
The bridge was named the Victoria Bridge in honor of Queen Victoria. It was then officially rededicated as the Victoria Jubilee Bridge following renovations in 1897. However, it is still commonly referred to by its original name as simply the Victoria Bridge. The bridge is approximately 3 kilometers, 2 miles, long and includes 24 ice-breaking piers.
Montreal was the capital of the province of Canada from 1844 to 1849.
But lost its status when a Tory mob burnt down the Parliament building to protest the passage of the Rebellion Losses Bill.
This is the harbour at Montreal in 1889.
After World War I, the Prohibition movement in the United States turned Montreal into a haven for Americans looking for alcohol. Unemployment remained high in the city and was exacerbated by the stock market crash of 1929 and the Great Depression.
Montreal's population surpassed 1 million in the early 1950s. The St. Lawrence Seaway opened in 1959, allowing vessels to bypass Montreal, a development that ended the city's economic dominance.
Chapter 7. Expo 67. However, the 1960s saw continued growth, including Expo 67, the construction of Canada's tallest skyscrapers, new expressways, and the Montreal metro system.
The 1967 International and Universal Exposition, or Expo 67, as it was commonly known, was a World's Fair held in Montreal from April 27 to October 29, 1967. Expo 67 was the most successful World's Fair of the 20th century. It had the most attendees up to that date, and had 62 nations participating, and set the single-day attendance record for a World's Fair, with 569,500 visitors on its third day.
This is a view of Ile Sainte-Héléne on the left and Ile Notre-Dame on the right, showing most of Expo 67, except for Habitat 67 and the rest of the pavilions on La Cité du Havre.
This is a view of Ile Sainte-Héléne.
The 1970s ushered in a period of wide-ranging social and political changes. stemming in large part from the concerns of the French-Canadian majority about the conservation of their culture and language. Given the traditional predominance of the English-Canadian minority in the business arena.
The election of the separatist political party, the Parti Québécois, resulted in significant political and linguistic shifts. Many companies and people left the city.
Chapter 8. Montreal Sightseeing.
Chapter 9. Old Montreal. Vieux Montreal is one of the most beautiful, well-preserved and living old towns this side of Europe. It is significant in making Montreal the truly different North American city. This is a map of Vieux Montreal or Old Montreal.
Old Montreal, in French, Vieux Montreal, is a historic area located southeast of downtown containing many different attractions such as the Old Port of Montreal, Place Jacques-Cartier, Montreal City Hall, the Bonsecours Market, Place d'Armes, Pointe-a-Calliere Museum, the Notre-Dame de Montréal Basilica, and the Montreal Science Center. This is the downtown and Old Port area. Place Jacques-Cartier is near the center of the downtown area. This is Old Montreal, in French, Vieux Montreal. Chapter 10. Place Jacques-Cartier.
Place Jacques-Cartier is named the French explorer. It hosts many street artists and kiosks during the high tourist season.
Place Jacques-Cartier is a principal point of reference. There is a tourist information office near the Montreal City Hall. Here are the metro stations in this area. The closest stations to Place Jacques-Cartier and Notre-Dame Cathedral are Champ de Mars and Place d'Armes.
Place Jacques-Cartier is a lively Montreal plaza and a gathering place for natives and tourists who enjoy the outdoor restaurants and performing peddlers.
This is a view of Place Jacques-Cartier.
Rue Saint-Paul.
Old Montreal, or Vieux Montreal in French, is the oldest area in the city of Montreal, dating back to New France in the borough of Ville-Marie. This area is usually considered to be bounded to the west by McGill Street, north by St. Antoine Street, east by Berry Street, and south by the St. Lawrence River.
Here is Rue Saint-Paul as it runs through Vieux Montreal.
Chapter 11. Hôtel De Ville, the City Hall of Montreal.
The five-story Montreal City Hall, French, Hôtel de Ville de Montréal, was built between 1872 and 1878 in the Second Empire style. It is in Old Montreal, between Place Jacques-Cartier and the Champ de Mars. This shows the location of the Hôtel de Ville de Montréal. Construction on the Montreal City Hall began in 1872 and was completed in 1878. Charles de Gaulle, then President of France, gave his Vive le Québec Libre speech from this building's balcony in 1967. The building has been designated as a National Historic Site of Canada. Chapter 12. Basilique Notre-Dame, Notre-Dame Basilica.
The grand and ornate Basilique Notre-Dame de Montréal is an early 19th century cathedral. It has 228-foot twin towers and one of North America's largest bells. Inside are intricate wooden carvings, a magnificent organ with more than 7,000 pipes and a brilliant blue ceiling sprinkled with gold stars.
The basilica's Gothic Revival architecture is among the most dramatic in the world. The interior is grand and colorful. Its ceiling is color deep blue and decorated with golden stars. And the rest of the sanctuary is a polychrome of blues, azures, reds, purples, silver, and gold.
The basilica is filled with hundreds of intricate wooden carvings and several religious statues. What is unusual for a church is that the stained glass windows along the sanctuary walls do not depict biblical scenes but scenes from the religious history of Montreal.
The church also has a Casse-Vent Frères pipe organ, which comprises 4 keyboards, 97 stops, almost 7,000 individual pipes and a pedal board. This shows the location of the Basilique Notre-Dame de Montréal facing the Place d'Armes in the historic district of Old Montreal. This is a view of the Notre-Dame de Montréal Basilica.
Today there are also many historical buildings in Old Montreal still in their original form: Notre-Dame de Montréal Basilica, Bonsecours Market, and the impressive 19th-century headquarters of all major Canadian banks on St. James Street, French, Rue Saint-Jacques. St. Joseph's Oratory, completed in 1934. Ernest Cormier's Art Deco Université de Montréal main building. The landmark Place Ville-Marie office tower. The controversial Olympic Stadium and surrounding structures are but a few notable examples of 20th-century architecture. Vieux Séminaire des Saints-Sulpice, Old Sulpician Seminary. The Old Sulpician Seminary is the oldest standing building in Montreal. Designed by François Dollier de Casson, the head of the Sulpicians in Montreal. It was started in 1684 and modified several times.
The Old Sulpician Seminary is the finest example in Montreal of institutional architecture dating from the French regime and is next to the Notre Dame Basilica.
Chapter 13. Rue Saint-Jacques.
St. Jacques Street, historically called St. James Street, is a major street in Montreal. The street has had 2 official names: St. James Street in English, never spelled Saint, for St. James's London, and Rue Saint-Jacques in French.
Both names are sometimes used in English, though Saint-Jacques is now more common for current geographical reference. St. James is usually used for its historical importance as a financial district.
Here is Rue Saint-Jacques. The old Bank on Montreal building is on the street.
Bank of Montreal.
The Bank of Montreal is the oldest in Canada, founded in 1817. Although it remains the bank's legal headquarters, its operational head office was moved to Toronto in 1977 due to political instability in Quebec.
Chapter 14. Place d'Armes.
Place d'Armes is a major plaza in Old Montreal. It was built in the 17th century and once served as the training grounds for the military.
Place d'Armes is surrounded by remarkable buildings, including the majestic Notre-Dame Basilica and the National Bank of Canada Tower. Place d'Armes is in the Old Town of Montreal, Vieux Montreal. The square is surrounded by remarkable buildings. On one side is the majestic Notre-Dame Basilica.
The first skyscraper completed here was in 1888 and was only 8 stories high. The Eldert Building, a perfect example of Art Deco architecture, was built here in 1929. And the National Bank of Canada Tower was built in 1967. This shows the location of the Place d'Armes. The Bonsecours Market, French, Marché Bonsecours, is also very close to Place Jacques-Cartier. Maisonneuve Monument. The monument in the center of the square was erected in 1895 and is dedicated to Paul Chamady de Maisonneuve, the founder of Montreal.
Chateau Ramsay. The Chateau Ramsay Museum was the first building proclaimed a historical monument in Quebec, and is the province's oldest private history museum. The first building was constructed in 1705 and served as the residence of the then governor of Montreal, Claude de Ramsay. This shows the location of the Chateau Ramsay Museum. Chapter 15. Sir George Étienne Cartier National Historic Site.
The Sir George Étienne Cartier National Historic Site is the former home of Sir George Étienne Cartier, and is now a history museum. This shows the location of the Sir George Étienne Cartier National Historic Site.
The Sir George Étienne Cartier National Historic Site commemorates the life and accomplishments of Sir George Étienne Cartier. It exhibits the architectural heritage of the upper middle class of 19th century Montreal, along with interpretive activities.
Maison du Calvet, Calvet House.
The Pierre du Calvet house was built in 1770 and restored in 1966. The owner was a Huguenot merchant, and the house was typical of the period.
Chapter 16. Marché Bonsecours, Bonsecours Market.
Bonsecours Market, French, Marché Bonsecours, is at 350 Rue Saint-Paul in Old Montreal. It is a two-story domed public market named for the adjacent Notre-Dame de Bonsecours Chapel.
The Bonsecours Market opened in 1847, and for more than 100 years, it was the primary public market in the Montreal area. It also briefly accommodated the Parliament of United Canada in 1849. Today, the market houses outdoor cafes, restaurants and boutiques. This shows the location of the Bonsecours Market, in French, Marché Bonsecours, very close to Place Jacques-Cartier.
Chapter 17. Vieux Port, Old Port. Montreal has been Canada's industrial and financial centre for 200 years. The various buildings, including factories, elevators, warehouses, mills, and refineries, provide a legacy of historical and architectural interest, especially in the downtown and Old Port areas.
This is the Vieux Port or Old Port area.
This is the Lachine Canal at the Old Port.
This is the Old Port area.
These are the quays of the Old Port of Montreal, Quai du Vieux Port de Montréal. Although the quays of the Old Port of Montreal, Quai du Vieux Port de Montréal, are longer the hub of the Canadian shipping industry, this area is now a pleasant place to walk, bike and shop.
This is the Old Port area.
Nearby Vieux Port is one of Montreal's best-loved recreation spots. This waterfront park is excellent for taking a stroll or signing up for rafting expeditions and harbor cruises. Place Juville area.
This is the Place Juville area. Chapter 18. Centre de l'Histoire de Montréal, Montreal History Center. The Centre de l'Histoire de Montréal is in a former fire station and explores Montreal's history from the 1600s to the present. This shows the location of the Centre de l'Histoire de Montréal.
Sun Life Building.
Canada began to recover from the Great Depression in the mid-1930s when skyscrapers such as the Sun Life Building began to appear. Chapter 19. Basilique-Cathedrale Marie-Reine-du-Monde, Mary Queen of the World Basilica.
The Cathedral Basilica of Mary, Queen of the World, in French, Cathédrale Marie-Reine-du-Monde, is the seat of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Montreal.
The Cathédrale Marie-Reine-du-Monde is the third largest church in Quebec after St. Joseph's Oratory, also in Montreal, and the Basilica of Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré east of Quebec City. This shows the location of the cathedral at 1085 Cathedral Street. Chapter 20 Place Ville-Marie and Montreal's Underground City.
Place Ville-Marie or 1 Place Ville-Marie, abbreviated as PVM, was also previously called Royal Bank Tower due to its principal tenant. It was built in the 1960s as the headquarters of the Royal Bank of Canada and is 46 stories high. It is a cruciform office tower built in the international style in 1962 and arguably the most distinctive building in Montreal.
A rotating beacon on the rooftop, turning counterclockwise, lights up at night, illuminating the surrounding sky with up to 4 white horizontal beams that can be seen as far as 50 kilometers away.
Place Ville-Marie has an underground shopping mall and forms the nexus of Montreal's underground city.
Montreal's underground city is the largest in the world, with indoor access to over 1,600 shops, restaurants, offices and businesses, many of Montreal's metro stations, a suburban transportation terminal, and tunnels extending all over downtown.
When Montreal was the Paris of America, Place Ville-Marie was the jewel in the crown.
This shows the location of Place Ville-Marie.
Chapter 21 Place Montreal Trust. Place Montreal Trust is a shopping mall and skyscraper in downtown Montreal.
This shows the location of Place Montreal Trust at the corner of St. Catherine Street and McGill College Avenue. Place Montreal Trust has over 320,000 square feet, 29,729 square meters, of stores and services and attracts 14 million visitors annually.
Place Montreal Trust has an indoor water fountain with the highest water spout in North America at 30 meters in height. Place Montreal Trust is connected to the Montreal underground city.
Chapter 22 McCord Museum of Canadian History.
McCord Museum of Canadian History, in French, Musée McCord, is a public research and teaching museum dedicated to the preservation, study, diffusion, and appreciation of Canadian history.
This shows the location of the McCord Museum just north of Place Ville-Marie and the Eaton Centre.
This again shows the location of the McCord Museum, just north of Place Ville-Marie and the Eaton Centre next to McGill University. Chapter 23 McGill University. McGill University is Canada's oldest university, home to nearly 30,000 students.
This is a view of McGill University.
This shows the location of McGill University.
McGill University is rated as the best university in Canada and the 12th best in the world. McGill and Concordia University are the two Anglophone universities in Montreal.
Concordia ranks first among Canadian and 33rd among world universities regarding graduates occupying the rank of Chief Executive Officer at Fortune 500 companies.
There are also French language universities located in the city of Montreal. The Université du Québec à Montréal is the Montreal campus of Université du Québec, and generally specializes in liberal arts. The Université de Montréal is the second largest research university in Canada.
Additionally, There are two French-language universities in the nearby area. The Université de Sherbrooke and Université Laval have campuses in the nearby suburb of Longueuil.
The Place des Armes Complex. Chapter 24. Rue Sherbrooke.
Sherbrooke Street, officially Rue Sherbrooke, is a major east-west artery and, at 32 kilometers, 20 miles, is the second longest street on the island of Montreal.
Rue Sherbrooke begins in the town of Montreal West and ends on the extreme eastern tip of the island, and is part of Quebec Route 138.
The street is divided into two portions. Sherbrooke Street East is east of St. Laurent Boulevard, and Sherbrooke Street West is west. Sherbrooke Street West is home to many historic mansions that comprised its exclusive Golden Squamile district, including the imposing Beaux Arts-style Montreal Masonic Memorial Temple.
The street is named for John Cope Sherbrooke, the Governor-General of British North America from 1816 to 1818.
Chapter 25. Musée des Beaux-Arts de Montréal. Montreal Museum of Fine Arts.
The Montreal Museum of Fine Arts is Montreal's premier repository of art representing numerous eras and styles, from 19th-century European masterpieces to Native American and Inuit artifacts.
This shows the location of the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts at 1380 Rue Sherbrooke West.
The Montreal Museum of Fine Arts is one of Canada's most famous museums and houses a vast collection of international contemporary and Canadian exhibits. It straddles two buildings, the 1912 original and its 1991 across the street annex, with underground galleries that connect the two sites. Chapter 26. Chateau Dufresnes, Museum of Decorative Arts. The former residence of Marius Dufresne and Oscar Dufresne, the Chateau Dufresne, was initially divided into two separate households, one for each brother. The founding fathers of the city of Maisonneuve, now incorporated with the city of Montreal, the famous Dufresne brothers were wealthy 20th-century French-Canadian entrepreneurs who played a significant role in the history of Montreal. This shows the location of the Chateau Dufresne Museum of Decorative Arts. The Chateau Dufresne is a historical museum of Beaux-Arts architecture and antique furnishings of the former Dufresne residences. The provincial government declared the Chateau Dufresne a historic monument in 1976. Chapter 27. Museum of Archaeology and History, Pointe-a-Calliere Museum.
The Pointe-a-Calliere Museum is on the site of the original colony in 1642. This shows the location of the Museum of Archaeology and History, Pointe-a-Calliere Museum, in the Old Port area of Montreal.
The Museum of Archaeology and History, Pointe-a-Calliere Museum, has a multimedia presentation and a self-guided tour through the underground crypt where artifacts unearthed in archaeological digs are displayed in their original locations. Chapter 28. Montreal Metro System.
Most of the points of interest in the downtown, Vieux Montreal and the Vieux Port areas are easily accessible through the extensive Montreal Metro system.
These are the metro fares. This is the Place des Arts station during rush hour.
The metro system has a series of interconnecting lines.
Here is another map showing the extent of the Montreal metro system.
This is the metro system in the downtown area.
Chapter 29. Mont Royal area.
This shows the location of the Montreal area, just north of downtown and Place Jacques-Cartier.
Some historians think the city takes its present name from Mount Royal, the hill in the center of the town, whose name was also initially given to the island, or Montreal as it was spelled in Middle French, or Mont Royal in present French. Locals refer to Mont Royal as the mountain. This 764-foot mountain provides an excellent view of the city and is a popular recreation spot. This is another view of Montreal from Mont Royal.
Parc du Mont Royal, Mount Royal Park. Parc du Mont Royal is on Mont Royal and is Montreal's largest and most popular park.
This is a map of the Parc du Mont Royal.
Mount Royal is the site of Mount Royal Park, in French. Parc du Mont Royal, one of Montreal's largest green spaces. The park, most of which is wooded, was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, who also designed New York's Central Park and was opened in 1876. This is a view of the Parc du Mont Royal. This is downtown Montreal as seen from Mount Royal.
Chapter 30. Oratoire Saint-Joseph, Saint Joseph's Oratory. Montreal is renowned for its churches. It is nicknamed La Ville aux Cent Clochers, the city of 100 bell towers.
Indeed. As Mark Twain once noted, this is the first time I was ever in a city where you couldn't throw a brick without breaking a church window. The city has 4 Roman Catholic basilicas: Mary, Queen of the World Cathedral, Notre Dame Basilica, St. Patrick's Basilica, and St. Joseph's Oratory. St. Joseph's Oratory is a basilica built to honor St. Joseph, Canada's patron saint. This oratory is the largest church in Canada, with the largest dome of its kind in the world after St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. This shows the location of St. Joseph's Oratory.
This is a view of St. Joseph's Oratory.
Chapter 31. Montreal's Underground City.
Montreal's underground city, officially Réseau or La Ville Souterraine in French, is the set of interconnected complexes, both above and below ground, in and around downtown Montreal. Montreal's underground city is also known as the Indoor City, Ville Intérieure, and is the largest underground complex in the world. Montreal's underground city has passageways lined with over 1,000 stores. The connections or tunnels have shops on both sides of the passage.
Montreal's underground city has over 32 kilometers, 20 miles, of tunnels spread over 12 square kilometers, 5 square miles. Connected areas include shopping malls, apartment buildings, hotels, condominiums, banks, offices, museums, universities, 7 metro stations, 2 commuter train stations, a regional bus terminal and the Bell Center Theatre and Arena.
The underground city has more than 120 exterior access points. Each is an entry to one of 60 residential or commercial complexes comprising 3.6 square kilometers, 1.4 square miles, of floor space, including 80% of all office space and 35% of all retail space in downtown Montreal.
In winter, some 500,000 people use the underground city every day. Because of its underground city, Montreal is often referred to as 2 cities in one. This is a map of La Ville Souterraine or Réseau, Montreal's underground city. Chapter 32, 1000 de la Gauchetière is a skyscraper in Montreal and the tallest building in the province of Quebec. It is named for its address at 1000 de la Gauchetière Street West in downtown.
1000 de la Gauchetière rises to the maximum height approved by the city, the elevation of Mount Royal, at 205 meters, 673 feet, and has 51 floors. A popular feature of this building is its atrium, which holds a large skating rink.
1250 Boulevard René Lévesque, still known as La Tour IBM Marathon, is a 199-meter, 47-story skyscraper in Montreal. It is the second tallest in the city, behind the nearby 1000 de la Gauchetière, which was completed the same year, 1992.
It is named for its address at 1250 René Lévesque Boulevard West, in the Ville-Marie borough of downtown Montreal. Despite being 6 meters shorter than 1000 de la Gauchetière, it is built on high ground and thus also reaches the maximum allowed elevation from sea level, that of Mount Royal.
Other areas near Montreal.
Chapter 33, Harbor Cruises. This is Le Bateau Mouche. This one-hour boat tour is a popular sightseeing attraction for tourists. This is Le Bateau Mouche on the St. Lawrence River.
Chapter 34. The 1976 Summer Olympics and the Olympic Park area.
Montreal was the host of the 1976 Summer Olympics.
1976 Summer Olympics was the first and, so far, only Summer Olympic Games to be held in Canada. Calgary and Vancouver later hosted the Winter Olympic Games in 1988 and 2010, respectively.
The Olympic Park is a vast park initially constructed for the 1976 Olympic Games. It includes the home stadium of the Montreal Expos, the Botanical Garden and the Biodome.
The Olympic Stadium, in French, Stade Olympique, is a multi-purpose stadium that served as the main venue for the 1976 Summer Olympics.
The Olympic Stadium became the home of Montreal's professional baseball and Canadian football teams.
Since 2004, when the Montreal Expos relocated to Washington, D.C., the stadium has had no main tenant and has financial and structural problems.
La Tour de Montréal is a tower incorporated into the stadium's base. It is the tallest inclined tower in the world at 175 meters and is a member of the World Federation of Great Towers.
This is the Olympic Village used for the 1976 Summer Olympics.
The Biodome is an intriguing attraction that's fun for kids and adults. This is a map of the Botanical Garden and Olympic Park area.
This is a map of the Olympic Park area.
The Biodome is housed in the stadium used in the 1976 Olympics.
The Biodome is part zoo and part environmental museum with animals and plants in created habitats, the tropical forest, the Laurentian forest, the St. Lawrence marine ecosystem and the polar world, including penguins. In the Biodome, visitors can see plants and animals native to each ecosystem, including polar penguins, puffins, tropical monkeys, and parrots. Chapter 35. Jardin Botanique de Montréal, Montreal Botanical Garden. Welcome to the Jardin Botanique de Montréal. The Montreal Botanical Garden.
This is a map of the Botanical Garden and Olympic Park area.
The Jardin Botanique de Montréal is a huge botanical garden that contains over 20,000 different plant species in 31 specialized gardens.
The Jardin Botanique de Montréal includes the largest Chinese garden outside Asia, a Japanese garden with a 2-room, and a fabulous bonsai collection. Chapter 36 Ile Sainte-Héléne, St. Helens Island. St. Helens Island or Ile Sainte-Héléne is an island in the St. Lawrence River, in the territory of the city of Montreal. It is southeast of the island of Montreal.
This shows the location of Ile Sainte-Héléne.
This shows the location of Ile Sainte-Héléne in the St. Lawrence River next to Montreal. The Limogne Channel separates it from Ile Notre-Dame.
Ile Sainte-Héléne was named in 1611 by Samuel de Champlain in honor of his wife, Helena de Champlain, née Boulay. The newly formed Canadian government acquired the island in 1870, and it was converted into a public park in 1874.
Ile Sainte-Héléne and nearby Ile Notre-Dame were chosen as the site of Expo 67, a World's Fair on the theme of man and his world, or in French, Terre des Hommes.
In preparation for Expo 67, the island was greatly enlarged and consolidated with several nearby islands, using earth excavated during the construction of the Montreal Metro. The nearby island, Ile Notre-Dame, was built from scratch. Pavilions designed for the 1967 International and Universal Exposition, popularly known as Expo 67, featured many architectural designs.
Although most pavilions were temporary structures, several remaining structures have become Montreal landmarks, including the geodesic dome of the U.S. Pavilion, now the Montreal Biosphere, and Moshe Safdie's striking Habitat 67 apartment complex. Habitat 67 was created by architect Moshe Safdie based on his master's thesis at McGill University and built as part of Expo 67.
Chapter 37. Ile Notre-Dame, Notre-Dame Island.
Ile Notre-Dame is an artificial island built in 10 months from 15 million tons of rock excavated for the Montreal Metro in 1965. It was created for Expo 67 to celebrate Canada's centennial.
Ile Notre-Dame, together with Ile Sainte-Héléne, makes up Parc Jean Drapeau, one of the biggest parks in Montreal.
This shows the location of Ile Notre-Dame in the St. Lawrence River. It is separated from Ile Sainte-Héléne by the Limogne Channel.
The former Pavilion of France and the Pavilion of Quebec were gutted, redecorated, and became the Casino de Montréal or Montreal Casino, a large gambling establishment owned and operated by the government of Quebec.
In 1980 the island was host to the Floralize International Les Horticultural Exhibition and Competition. The Floralize Gardens are creatively preserved and arranged by the Parc Jean Drapeau team of gardeners.
The microclimate created by the lagoons crisscrossing the island promotes the uniqueness of these gardens by allowing the growth of plants, usually intolerant of Montreal's climate.
Chapter 38. Shopping in Montreal.
Montreal is a shopper's delight. Two major areas for shopping include Rue Sherbrooke, known for its designer boutiques and gourmet restaurants, and Boulevard Saint Laurent, whose shops, galleries and restaurants offer a more multicultural atmosphere.
Another area is the Quartier Latin, anchored by Rue Saint-Denis. Boulevard Saint-Laurent is a vibrant, gentrified neighborhood full of shops and restaurants and continues to be popular with academics and artists. Chapter 39. Montreal Demographics.
These are the ethnic origins of people in the metropolitan Montreal area.
This is a continuation of a list of ethnic origins of people in the metropolitan Montreal area. These are the languages most spoken at home in the Montreal metropolitan area. We see the definite predominance of French in Montreal. Note that percentages add up to more than 100%, because some people speak 2 or more languages at home. Chapter 40. The Port of Montreal.
The Port of Montreal, located in Canada's second-largest metropolis, is one of the busiest on the North American continent and the largest inland port on Earth.
The Port of Montreal has been judged one of the safest and most advanced on the planet, with most of the movement done solely by computers and machines.
The Port of Montreal is also the entry point to other major cities such as Toronto, Detroit and Cleveland. It is the second busiest port in Canada, behind Vancouver. Chapter 41. Montreal has been called Canada's cultural capital. The city is Canada's centre for French-language television productions, radio, theatre, film, multimedia and print publishing. The Quartier Latin is a neighborhood crowded with cafes, animated by this literary and musical activity. Montreal's many cultural communities have given it a distinct local culture. As a North American city, Montreal shares many cultural characteristics with the rest of the continent. It has a tradition of producing both jazz and rock music. The city has also produced much talent in visual arts, theater, music, and dance.
Yet, being at the confluence of the French and the English traditions, Montreal has developed a unique and distinguished cultural face. Another distinctive characteristic of Montreal culture life is found in the animation of its downtown, particularly during summer, prompted by cultural and social events, particularly festivals. Montreal's largest festival is the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival, which is the largest in the world of its kind.
Just for Laughs, in French Juste pour rire, is a comedy festival held each July in Montreal. It is the world's largest festival of its kind, and was founded in 1983 as a 2-day francophone event.
In 1985, Anglophone events were included, and the festival increased to a whole month, with French-speaking performers during the first half and English speakers in the second half. International and non-verbal acts, acrobats, pantomimes, etc., are scattered throughout the program.
The Festival International des Jazz de Montréal, FIJM, in English, Montreal International Jazz Festival, also called the Jazz Fest, is the largest jazz festival in the world.
Another popular festival is the Francofolies. Les Francofolies de Montréal is a large annual festival in downtown Montreal featuring over 1,000 French-language performers from all over the world, and attracting over 500,000 visitors.
A cultural heart of classical art and the venue for many summer festivals. The Place des Arts is a complex of different concert and theatre halls surrounding a large square in the eastern portion of downtown.
The Place des Arts has the headquarters for one of the world's foremost orchestras, the Montreal Symphony Orchestra.
Also performing at the Place des Arts is the Opéra de Montréal and the city's chief ballet company, Les Grands Ballets Canadiens. This shows the location of the Place des Arts in downtown Montreal.
The most popular sport in Montreal is ice hockey. The city's professional hockey team, the Montreal Canadiens, is one of the original 6 NHL teams. The Montreal Canadiens boasts an NHL record of 24 Stanley Cup championships. The New York Yankees are the only other team in North American sports to have more championship titles, with 26.
Chapter 42. Montreal started as the economic center and largest city of Canada from the country's birth until the early 1970s, when Toronto overtook it.
Losing many headquarters and a sizable Anglophone business community lessened Montreal's economic and social importance. In the early 1990s, Montreal's economy began to recover, and the city is today an important center of commerce, industry, technology, culture, finance, and world affairs. This is a graph showing the GDP of major cities in Canada. Montreal is in second place after Toronto. Montreal industries include aerospace, electronic goods, pharmaceuticals, printed goods, software engineering, telecommunications, textile and apparel manufacturing, tobacco and transportation. The service sector is also strong and includes civil, mechanical and process engineering, finance, education, and research and development. In 2002, Montreal ranked as the 4th largest center in North America regarding aerospace jobs.
The Port of Montreal is the largest inland port in the world, handling 26 million tons of cargo annually.
As one of the most important ports in Canada, the Port of Montreal remains a transshipment point for grain, sugar, petroleum products, machinery, and consumer goods.
For this reason, Montreal is the railway hub of Canada and has always been an important rail city. It is home to the headquarters of the Canadian National Railway and was home to the headquarters of the Canadian Pacific Railway until 1995.
Montreal is also a center of film and television production, the headquarters of Alliance Films,
and 5 studios of the Academy Award-winning documentary producer National Film Board of Canada is here, as well as the head offices of Telefilm Canada, the national feature-length film and television funding agency. Due to its eclectic architecture and the broad availability of film services and crew members, Montreal is a famous filming location for feature-length movies and sometimes stands in for European places. Cirque du Soleil, French for Circus of the Sun, is an entertainment company based in Montreal and located in the inner-city area of Saint-Michel. Cirque du Soleil was founded in 1984 by 2 former street performers, Guy Laliberté and Daniel Gauthier. Cirque expanded rapidly through the 1990s and 2000s, going from one show with 73 employees in 1984
to approximately 3,500 employees from over 40 countries, producing 15 shows over every continent except Africa and Antarctica, with an estimated annual revenue exceeding $600 million.
The multiple Las Vegas shows alone play to more than 9,000 people a night, 5% of the city's visitors, adding to the 70+ million people who have experienced Cirque. Chapter 43. The climate of Montreal.
Will it be hot? Or will it be cold in Montreal? Here are the average high and low temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year in Montreal.
Here are the average high and low temperatures in degrees Celsius throughout the year in Montreal.
Here is the average monthly precipitation in inches throughout the year in Montreal.
Recommended videos, Montreal.
Recommended video, Top 5 Things to Do in Montreal. Recommended video, Montreal Vacation Travel Guide, Expedia.
Recommended video, The History of Montreal. Recommended video, Toronto and Montreal Compared. The Maple Leaf Forever.
Table of Contents, Montreal. Thanks for watching.